Hello and welcome to the Path to Freedom podcast, a weekly podcast with the intention to inspire, empower and uplift us all to develop a healing consciousness that we, that is you and me, may forever allow for greater and grander versions and expressions of who and what we are to emerge with ease, grace and spiritual dignity. My name is Daniel Roquillo and I am your host. Blessings and welcome to this week's episode of the Path to Freedom podcast. This, if I may say so, this awesome, super cool podcast about freedom, about us waking up to who and what we are, about us allowing for greater and grander expressions of that who and what to emerge, about us allowing for the peace and the freedom, the joy and the harmony and the wholeness and the abundance and the beauty and the intelligence and creativity that is inherent in every single moment, that is inherent within each and every single one of us, all of the time, always and forever. So this is a podcast that I love it. I absolutely love this podcast, and I absolutely love that I get to record these episodes and that I get to host this podcast. I'm so grateful, I'm so honored, and I'm privileged that I get to do this. It's had anyone asked me, this is like the 61st episode and they had a summer break, and so had anyone asked me like a year and a half ago if I'd be doing podcasts, I would be laughing. I would think that they were nuts because it was so far from anything that I could ever see myself do. But, and this is what I love, not only about this podcast, but this is what I love about the path of freedom, path to freedom, and the path of awakening, that we never know how Spirit is going to guide and lead and move us. We never know what we will be called to do. This, of course, takes that, and it requires that we listen and that we obey to that still small voice, to that inner guidance when it comes, as it comes. But we never know. And I'm so blown away. From time to time, I'm so blown away by the steps I'm taking, or not by the steps I'm being guided to take, by the path as it unfolds before me, as to the opportunities and the possibilities that just open up. I'm not taking credit for it because it's not me opening it up, but they just open up. Well, I am taking credit, and I'm grateful for my willingness to surrender. I'm grateful for my willingness to say, thy will be done. I'm grateful for my willingness to give my intentions permission to guide and lead and move me. That's my part. That's my doing. But the rest, it's not my doing. But I'm still grateful. All right, so before I forget, because I just caught the topic for this episode, I had a whole nother topic planned, but more often than not, Spirit sort of overrides whatever I have come up with. And so the topic for today is something about self-love, self-love is the foundation for self-love is the foundation of freedom. Self-love is the foundation of freedom. That's the topic for today. And I don't know what Spirit has to say about it. I have never, before catching this topic about 10 minutes ago, I have never thought about self-love as being a foundation for freedom or of freedom. So it's I have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth during this episode, as always. But sometimes, and perhaps most of the times, even though I don't come up with the topics, but I catch them, I'm being guided to them, I have a general idea of what the topic entails, what it means. But this I have no idea. So it's going to be very interesting to hear and to hear what Spirit has to say. All right, I've done a whole lot of talking before we even got into the episode. So as always, before we move into the episode, we always want to begin with a moment of coming back to the nowness of this moment, a moment of stilling ourselves, moving into silence. A moment of meditation is another word for it. A moment of meditation and a moment of prayer, of raising our vibration. And so in this moment, as the music begins to play, I invite you to close your eyes. I invite us all to make ourselves comfortable, to find a comfortable seat or way to stand or whatever. But I invite us to make us all comfortable. I invite us to close our eyes and gently tap that space in between the eyebrows, that spiritual eye, that divine eye, that we may make ourselves open and available to catch that which cannot be caught really with our human senses, but that allows us to catch the eternal, that which is in the mind of Spirit. And while we're tapping, I invite us to smile, that we may inform the body that it can relax and that it can produce and release these tonic chemicals, these good for the body chemicals, serotonin, the oxytocin, endorphins, all of the stuff that it releases. And as we stop the tapping, I invite us to put our hands in our lap, palms facing upward, and to turn our attention toward our breath. And when we turn our attention toward the breath, there are a couple of things we need to be aware of. Firstly, the body is fully able and capable of doing the breathing in and of itself, by itself. In other words, we don't need to invest anything in the breathing process. We don't need to make the breathing happen. We don't need to control it. We don't need to even take part of it or take part in it. But all we got to do, what we get to do, is to simply observe and surrender to it. And secondly, I want to be aware of what a full breath is. That the breath, the full breath, is actually the in-breath, the slight pause or space in between the in and out breath, the out breath, and the space or the pause. So as we turn our attention toward our breath, we want to sustain that attention upon the full breath, the full circle of breath. And so, as we take on the feeling tone that all is well, we allow the peace that follows to move us deep into the stillness and into silence. And should our attention drift, we gently and lovingly turn it back to the breath and we begin again. Back to the breath and begin again. Come back to the breath and begin again. Come back to the breath and begin again. And as I move us into prayer, I invite you to remain with your eyes closed, your mind open and available. You may catch the vibration and the frequency of the prayer, allowing it, giving it permission to pull you upwards to a higher level of vibration, to an even more expanded consciousness. And so in this moment, how grateful I am. How grateful I am for this moment, for the peace that is here, for the love that is here, the joy that is here, the wholeness that is here, the harmony that is here, the abundance that is here in this moment. How grateful I am for that still small voice that eternally speaks and whispers to me words of wisdom and guidance, that eternally guides and leads and moves me to go even deeper and wider and higher. For this podcast, these episodes and this episode in particular, and for the technology that allows all of this to be. The Zoom, the microphone, the computer, the internet, electricity, software, all of it. I'm grateful for it. And then there's you. Beautiful, beautiful you. And how grateful I am for your participation. How grateful I am for your contribution to this podcast, to this field that this podcast is generating, that we are co-creating. This would not be what it is without you. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for your willingness to forever allow for greater and grander expressions of who and what you are to emerge. Thank you for your willingness to wake up to who and what you are. Thank you for your having said yes to cultivating a sense of self-love, an increased sense of self-love, because that is what this path is all about. So thank you. And from this space of gratitude, I know and feel the allness and the goodness and the eternality of God. God is everywhere, fully present in every being, in every object, in every space and place in all of creation. And so the infinite love and infinite peace and infinite joy and infinite harmony and wholeness and abundance that God is, and much more, all of that which God is fully present everywhere. And as God is eternally sourcing and fueling and funding itself, it means that all of creation is eternally sourced, fueled, and funded. As God is eternally sustaining and maintaining itself, it means that all of creation, every being, every object, every space and place, is eternally sustained and maintained. And as God is forever guiding and leading and moving itself into greater and grander expressions of who and what God is, it means that all of creation, every being, every object, every space and place is forever guided and moved and led. So right where we are, right where you are, right where I am, something truly wonderful is happening in this moment, in this very moment. In this very moment, everything is working for our good. The gifts and the blessings of God and Spirit are everywhere, and we are now opening ourselves up to receive them even more than we have ever done before. We receive more than we have ever received before. Something wonderful is happening. Healing is happening. Freedom is happening. Peace is happening. Love is happening. Joy is happening. Abundance is happening. Right now, right now, right now. I know it and I feel it. I accept it. I give thanks for it. I allow it to be. Fully knowing that God is forever for each of us. Fully knowing and feeling that in every single moment, all is well. All is well. All is well. So it is. So be it. So shall it be. Amen. You may open your eyes and welcome to this expanded state. I don't even want to open my eyes. I so enjoy, not that I don't enjoy looking at things, not that I don't enjoy looking at you or looking into the camera, but I so enjoy being in this space. I don't want to, how sometimes when you're waking up, you've been sleeping all night and you wake up in that nice and warm and comfy bed and you don't want to get up. That's that's kind of how it is for me right now. I love the numbness of this moment, and I love the anticipation, and I'm very curious. I'm very interested in what Spirit's going to say to me in this episode. But I don't want to leave this space. I don't want to break this field. But on the count of 3, I'm going to open my eyes. So 1, 2, 3. Welcome. Hi. If you can see me, I'm waving. Or if you can't see me, I'm waving. Hi. Hello. All right. So let's get into the episode, which has the topic self-love is the foundation of freedom. Let's begin by defining what love is. Because I find that many individuals have a distorted perception of what love is. But love is the full and is giving fully and freely of ourselves and that which we have to give. It is about embracing and allowing that which is to be as it is. Like Jesus said, turn the other cheek, which does not mean to that we are to be hit or abused or molested over and over again. But it simply means that we are to embrace and allow another being to be who and where they are, giving them the freedom of being who and where they are, who and what they are. And so self-love simply means that we give ourselves the freedom to be who and what we are. It is also about saying yes to who and what we are. It is about saying yes to us. It is about saying yes to, like we began, about saying yes to allowing the peace and the love and the joy and the harmony and the wholeness and the abundance and the beauty and the creativity and intelligence and all these beautiful divine qualities. Self-love is about saying yes to them. It is about giving ourselves permission to be an open channel and conduit for these to flow through. And so there are many, I'm supposing and I'm imagining that Spirit means for us to hit it from different angles today. Because there are many aspects as to how to call forth the self-love. We have let's begin, because we had last week, if you tuned in last week, the topic was something like inherent in every yes, there's a no. And so if self-love means saying yes, not to our superficial needs, not to the egoic perception that we need more stuff, or that we need more accolades, or that we need more acknowledgements, or more money. These are all good and well, but self-love has nothing to do with these. And who and what we truly are has nothing to do with these. And so saying yes to us being living in freedom and living in peace and living in joy and living in harmony and abundance and wholeness, saying yes to that means saying no to something else. And actually, I was talking to someone. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? It doesn't matter. This individual, I have been working with this individual for quite some time, and this individual sort of had a relapse. She has been moving forward beautifully, allowing for more peace and more harmony, and joy and love to flow through her and to express itself through her. But she had a relapse in the sense that she got very upset and resorted to yelling and cussing and throwing things. And as we talked about it, and this relapse was a number of days ago, and then yesterday or the day before, we had a session. And as we talked about it, she was feeling and experiencing a lot of guilt and a lot of shame. And she was blaming herself, and she was beating herself up. She was berating herself. She was abusing herself for not being able to respond from a higher vibration. And as we talked about it, and as I shared that shaming, blaming, beating ourselves up, abusing ourselves has no transformational value whatsoever, but it only serves to keep us small. It only serves to keep us not feeling good about ourselves. It keeps the love away. But rather than abusing ourselves or blaming or shaming ourselves, we want to learn to embrace and allow whatever comes up and whatever happens to be as it is. It doesn't mean that we resign. It doesn't mean that we resort to, like there's this saying or this excuse that says that, well, I'm only human. Yeah, of course. Of course we're human, but being human does not mean that we need to turn to violence. It doesn't mean that we need to turn to jealousy. It doesn't mean that we need to turn to hatred or racism or resentment. Yes, a lot of people do that, but it doesn't mean that we need to. It doesn't mean that we have to. But as we're all spiritual beings, as we all have the ability to make choices in each and every single moment, we all get to choose whether to stay in a high vibration, whether to respond to whatever is going on, or whether to react to whatever is going on. And she had fallen back into reacting. But that's all right. In that moment, that was the best that she could do. Had she been more conscious in that moment, she would have responded differently. But in that moment, she was not more conscious, but she was at the level of consciousness where she was at. And from that level of consciousness, she reacted. And she said some things, and she yelled, and she broke some things. But cultivating self-love, a sense of self-love. In doing that, we need to be gentle and kind with ourselves. We need to be gentle and kind. And so saying yes to ourselves means saying no to beating ourselves up. It means saying no to mistreating ourselves. It means saying no to abusing ourselves. If we do it, that's all right in the moment. But we need to have an intention to stop doing it. We need to have an intention, to set an intention to be kind and compassionate and forgiving towards ourselves. And compassion really means the understanding of lack of understanding. So being compassionate means that we understand that whenever ourselves or another individual falls back into anger, into these low vibrations, negativity, fear, worry, doubt, hatred, whenever they fall into those vibrations, it is not because they're a bad person per se, but it is because they are under the influence, under the aegis of unconsciousness, of not understanding. In that moment, they do not understand. They are not aware that there is an alternative. They are not aware that they actually have the ability to make a higher choice. And as we talked during our conversation and during our session, she gradually began to forgive herself, which simply means that she began to release her negative perceptions, her negative thoughts about herself and what she had done, or actually what she had failed to do. What she had failed to do. And this begins to birth freedom. Freedom, not only freedom from fear, freedom from worry, freedom from doubt, freedom from lack or scarcity, but also the freedom to allow for the peace and the joy and the harmony and the wholeness. It is the essence and truth and essence of who we are. So it's always here, it's always within us. And it's fully present in every moment of every single minute, of every single hour, of every single day, of every single month, of every single week, of every single year. It is eternal. It is not bound by time. It has nothing to do with time. But as we begin to set ourselves free to be who and what we are, and to do what we do, but to do what we do, these qualities begins to emerge from within us, so that we may move free as free beings through the world, doing the very best we can. Sometimes we our best is very high. Sometimes our best is not that high. Sometimes we fall, and when we do fall, without shaming or blaming ourselves, without beating ourselves up, without abusing ourselves, we just get up. We fall, we get up, and we begin again. We keep moving, we keep trying, we keep practicing, and gradually our best becomes better, and our worst becomes better and better and better. Like I was thinking, it was just the other day. I had a crappy day a couple of days ago. I had such a crappy day. I was in such a terrible mood from after lunch and all through the evening. I didn't want to speak to anyone. I didn't want to see anyone. And I have my family. I've got my wife, and I've got 2 children. And I really had no place. And I didn't even go. I didn't even want to go anywhere. I didn't even want to go anywhere. So So I basically withdrew into this my sacred space, and I spent most of the evening in here, but I was not in a good place, and this was going somewhere. Why did I begin talking about my crappy day? Was it because we fall and get back up? That was the sense of it, at least. So as I had my crappy day, I simply allowed it to be. I realized that there's nothing I can do in this moment. Meditation didn't work, prayer didn't work. As I withdrew into my sacred space, I watched some comic series, some no, not comic series, some funny series, but not even them was able to raise my vibration. So I just sort of gave in. I surrendered. I allowed myself to be where I was, and I made the choice to go to bed early because I knew that when I wake up, it's going to be a different day. Oh yes, that was what I was going to say. Um, and still, as I had this crappy day, and it was the crappiest day, one of the worst days that I had for as long as I can remember. But still, even when I was having a crappy day, I was still, I did not berate anyone. I did not criticize anyone. I did not become angry at anyone. I was outwardly, obviously, my especially my wife, she noticed that something was up. But other than me being sort of turned within and sort of dark and dank and murky, I was not affecting anyone. I was not, I didn't take it out on anyone. And the day before, when I sort of went back to, or the day after rather, when I sort of went back to this experience, I was grateful to recognize and realize that my worst now is so much more loving, in such a higher vibration than it has ever been before. I mean, I've had worst days before. Obviously, we all do from time to time. But they have evolved from me getting into arguments and screaming and cussing and doing all these destructive, having all these destructive habits. And now I just pretty much became silent and I withdrew. Both were worst days, but the expression was totally different. And so through our intention, through our saying yes, through our allowing ourselves to be who and what we are and where we are, the freedom begins to emerge. And when we talk about self-love, we have talked a little bit about it, but we need to integrate the embracing and the allowing. Because these two, when it comes to healing, when it comes to releasing and letting go of that which no longer serves us, the small and the limited thought patterns, the egoic structures, habits that are destructive, or you name it. But when it comes to releasing and letting go, embracing and allowing is essential. They are the key. We need to be aware of something, absolutely. So it needs to come to the surface. It needs to come into our awareness. Whatever it is, we need to release and let go. But as we have become aware of it, we can either move into resistance and we can seek to deny it, or we can seek to suppress it, or we can seek to push it away, none of which serve us, because they only, as we turn our attention toward the bad and the negative, all it's going to accomplish is magnify and amplify. And if we push it away, it will come back. It will circle back until we have resolved it, until we have healed it. But healing happens when we become aware of something and when we embrace and allow it, which simply means when we love it, when we give it permission to be what it is, as it is, whatever it is. As we give it permission to be what it is, it begins to dissolve. It begins to transmute itself. And so this is an essential part of the self-love, that we learn, that we realize, first of all, the futility and the destructiveness of fighting against ourselves, of engaging and getting ourselves involved in thoughts as to what should and should not be, who we should be, what we should be able to do, and so forth. Because that kind of resistance does not birth freedom, but it births captivity. It births negativity. It births disease and illness, disharmony, discord, far from the freedom that we all seek and desire. All right, so we've talked about how self-love means to say yes to ourselves, to give ourselves permission to allow for the peace and the freedom and the joy and the love to flow through us, to express through us, to come through us. We've talked about how we need to embrace and allow, how we need to stop berating ourselves. Anything else? So in this moment, let's move into a little bit of practice. Let's move into an exercise. And I'm going to invite us to close our eyes and be still. And in that stillness, there are a number of questions that I would invite us to ask. And the first question really is, how can I be more loving toward myself? That's the fundamental question. That's the primary question. And then we have questions to augment that. But the first and foremost question is, how can I be more loving toward myself? And then we can augment that by asking, what do I need to forgive about myself? How can I be more compassionate toward myself? What do I need to release and let go about myself? Or what do I need to embrace and allow about myself? So there are a number of questions that we can ask in addition to the one question, which is, how can I be more loving to myself? And so in this moment, I invite us to close our eyes, turn our attention within, and begin to ask whatever questions you feel inspired or compelled to ask. So we ask the questions, we remain still so that we can catch the answer. This is not for us to figure out, but for us to catch in the language and in a way that we can understand as unique and perfect individuals. How can I be more loving toward myself? How can I be more compassionate? What do I need to embrace and allow about myself? What do I need to forgive about myself? What do I need to release and let go? And as always, you may open your eyes and welcome. As always, whenever we catch an insight or a revelation or guidance, as perhaps we caught now, we always want to give them permission to move us into some kind of expanded action, which means that we want to act upon whatever insights we have caught. So if for instance you caught that there is something you need to forgive about yourself, then I would invite you to actually move into a forgiveness process, to actually set aside time to forgive whatever you felt you needed to, or whatever you caught you needed to forgive, or if you caught that you needed to embrace and allow something, I would ask you to give yourself the space to actually embrace and allow whatever. And what I caught, and this is not this. All right, so that's another aspect that we need to address. What I caught, because my life right now is very intense, and so a way to honor myself, which is another aspect of cultivating the sense love, that we need to honor ourselves. We need to honor our needs. We need to stand up for our needs, which we will get into in a moment. But what I caught is that I need to give myself breathing space. And I can't help but laugh, because I keep reminding myself, this is coming up all of the time. I'm constantly being guided, and I have been for the last month, 6 weeks perhaps. I've been guided and I've caught that I need to give myself breathing space, and yet I don't do it. So I'm asking you to do something, but I'm not doing it myself. There you go. All right. So we need to honor ourselves, which means that we need to begin to pay attention to what we need. Not only our basic survival needs, but perhaps even more. No, not perhaps even more. And let's circle back to the inherent in every yes, there's a no. What I caught right now, or what came to me, is that if we want to say yes to health, like I have a friend who wants to be healthy, but she's not supporting that desire in her life. But she wants to have a healthy and harmonious body, but she's not acting in alignment with that. And so saying yes to a healthy body would mean that we need to say no to certain things. Perhaps sugar, perhaps spending too much time on the couch, perhaps you fill in the blanks. So so we need to honor ourselves. But what really came to me, and this of course is in reference to what I caught a number of weeks ago. We talked about honoring our spiritual needs, and these are the needs that are not really about our physical survival, but it is about us raising and sustaining a high vibration. And these needs, they are so important if we want to enjoy the freedom and all aspects of freedom that life so fully and freely is offering us. And for me, these needs, I've got 4 of these needs. Whereas meditation is one, whereas a creative outlet is one, whereas physical movement, exercise is one, and a space to breathe is one. And I am pretty good at balancing the first 3. I meditate almost every day. I engage in creativity every single day. I exercise 3-4 times a week, close to every week. But the one that I am sort of neglecting is to give myself space to just be. A space where I'm not engaging in anything. It could be me taking a walk without having an intention or a purpose for that walk. It can be me just sitting here in this chair or out on the balcony, which I love. It's getting a little bit chilly out now as fall is coming our way. But a space where I have nothing to do. A space where I have no lists. I have no bullets that I need to check off. But a space for me to just be. And I'm calling it breathing space because it is sort of like breathing. Sort of like a dolphin needs to come to the surface to breathe before it goes down again into the deep. So space for me to just breathe. And honoring these needs and honoring ourselves and all of our needs, that is a foundation for freedom. If I am not honoring this need, I will not have the peace of mind that I'm desiring to have, that I want to have. If I keep having a relentless schedule with back to back activities all of the time, there's not going to be much peace at the end of the day. So it's important that we honor our needs, and perhaps especially our spiritual needs. Perhaps there will be a sequel to this. I think our time is up. I don't want these episodes to be too long, but I'm aiming for about an hour, give or take, probably less than an hour. And I think I am stretching that time right now. So I'm going to bless us out, and we'll see what happens. Perhaps Spirit will come knocking on my door and telling me to do another episode with regards to cultivating a sense of self-love. But in this moment, I invite you to close your eyes. And I invite you to take on the feeling tone of gratitude and thanksgiving and appreciation. You don't need to attach it to anything, but just be. Just allow it to rise up from within you. Just allow it to take you over. For gratitude is where we want to begin, and gratitude is where we want to end. So let's begin now in gratitude. And thank you. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you, Spirit, for guiding and leading and moving me into all of these beautiful things that I'm doing. I'm so grateful for the insights, for the revelations, for the clarifications that have occurred during this episode. I'm so grateful for the healing that has occurred during this episode. I know that as we all are tuned in, as we all are open and available, receptive, something truly wonderful is happening. I know that expansion is taking place during this episode. That we now are not the same as an hour ago, as we moved into the episode. And I credit all of this to God. This eternal presence, this loving presence that is everywhere. Right where you are, right where I am, and in the space in between. There's no space nor place where God is not. And so the infinite love that we experience, the infinite peace that we experience, the infinite joy that we experience, the infinite harmony that we experience, the infinite wholeness and abundance that we experience, it is all God. And God right now is clapping its hands because of our willingness to keep on growing, to keep on unfolding, to keep on expanding, to go even wider and deeper and higher. God is very pleased because the work that we are doing allows Spirit to come into a greater and grander expression in, as, and through us, which is the will of God. And so right where we are, there is only wholeness. Right where we are, there is only abundance. There is only peace. There is only joy. There is only love. And everything that does not resonate with these high frequencies, everything and anything that is not in alignment with these, have fallen away. It has dissolved. It has been transmuted to never come back again. And so it is so easy for me in this moment to state that all is well. I name this a sacred space. I claim freedom for all of us. I claim wholeness for all of us. I claim abundance for all of us. I claim love for all of us. And I do it fully knowing that it's already given. It's already done. It's already done. I know it. I feel it. I accept it. I give thanks for it. I allow it to be, and so it is. So shall it be. So be it. Amen. You may open your eyes. Before we end this episode, I want to invite you. I was a couple of months ago, I was invited by something called the Wisdom app. It has not yet been released, at least not when I'm recording this. But the Wisdom app, it's an app for your smartphone. Right now, it's only available for iOS, that is Apple. What are they called? The Apple phones. My God, iPhones. It's only available for iPhones and iPads and Apple TV, I believe. But the Wisdom app is a space for conversations. And so they have gathered a bunch of what they call top mentors, which is like people who are into teaching in any area, in every area of life. So we've got relationships, we've got finances, we've got I don't know if there's construction, but I bet there's gardeners. I know that there are people who are teaching about sexuality, obviously spirituality, and many, many more areas. So they have gathered a bunch of top mentors, and when they release this app to the world, the idea is that people are going to download the app and go into it, and they can listen to live talks. But not only that, but you can engage in the live talks. So as I'm doing talks, I've been on the app for 6 weeks or something. We're testing it out still. As I'm doing a talk, and if you're listening in on the talk, you can press a button and you can become a guest in the talk, so that we can have an actual live conversation. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. I'm so honored and privileged, and I want to invite you to it. In the description of this episode, you'll see a link. It'll say something along the lines of join Wisdom app. I invite you to follow it, and I invite you to join me. I would love to be able to have a conversation with any one of you, as opposed to me just sitting here and I'm not looking at me, but I'm still the only person I see is me. I would love to, even though the Wisdom app does not support visual, it does not support video, but it's all audio. at this point at least. But I would love to be able to have a conversation with someone rather than me just talking to someone. So I'm going to invite you to that. You can go to my website. If you can't find the link, you can go to my website, or you can just Google it, Wisdom app. All right. So until the next time, I bless your day. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I'm so grateful. Till the next time, I bless your day, and I bless your way. Beautiful, wonderful, radiant, loving be. Namaste.
You have been listening to an episode of the Path to Freedom podcast with me, Daniel Roqueo. I invite you to stay tuned for more episodes. If you have any questions or comments, or just want to get more inspiration and empowerment, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. I also invite you to visit my website, danielroqueo.com. I bless your day, and I bless your way, you beautiful, wonderful being.